All righty, guys. All righty. How is everybody doing? My name is Brian Hilliard, author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro and Winning in Direct Sales. And we are here with Jeannie Bellinger. She is a coach and speaker, and she helps rock star direct sales moms replace their income and retire their spouses from jobs that they hate. Jenny, I am really looking forward to this. This is the second time we got a chance to get together. This is going to be some good stuff. How are you doing today?
I am amazing and so excited to be here. You know I love talking to you.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good because, one of the things that we're going to kind of get into here is this idea of communication, leadership, how to get the most out of yourself and others, and inside of a network marketing slash direct sales framework. Because I think just to kind of set the tone for people here, I think one of the things that is also different about network marketing and direct sales is that as an industry, we put people into positions that we may or may not have trained them for. So, we're talking like, okay, so somebody signs on and we say, listen, just get some customers and this will be fine. And then you're like, fine. And then they're like, well, why don't you wind up getting a couple of recruits? I mean, you just do it while you're there. And they're like, fine. And then they get a few more recruits and then they get a few more customers. And next thing you know, they've got 6 or 7, people on their team, maybe even 10, but 5, 6, 7, maybe 10. And next thing you know, they're in a situation where they're having to lead people because these people, they're recruits, they're immediate downline.
Mhm.
We're not even getting into the second and third generation right now, but their immediate downline are challenged. They're challenged because they're not really sure necessarily how to motivate. They're not really sure how to inspire. They're not really sure how to communicate. They're not really sure how to get that group going. They're not sure how to turn things around. So let's just start from the beginning and talk about leadership in general. Okay, let's just
Mhm.
talk about leadership in general and get your take on what being a good leader looks like inside of a network marketing, direct sales kind of deal, because that will create the foundation for some of these other points that I know we're going to make in terms of communication, values, and inspiration, and all that good stuff. So, what does it mean to be a good leader just to get the ball rolling?
Well, to be a good leader, it means actually lead it starts with leading yourself, right? It really starts with, do you do what you say you are going to do? Because otherwise, why else should anybody else follow you if you don't even follow you, right? Being a good leader means getting to know the people on your team, and not just assuming that they're all the same and that all the
Right.
trainings are going to work the same. Interestingly enough, a lot of people who are in direct sales and network marketing come from the world of teaching. So if you think of your team like your classroom, you can't teach the same concept the same way. You've got to have a multitude of ways to explain a concept to your group of kids, because every child, every student is different. Well, everyone on your team is a little bit different. They have different personality styles, they have different ways of receiving information, they have different values, or different things that they value at different levels. So by getting to know the team members, it'll help you become a better leader, and letting them get to know you as a human lets them give you just a little bit more grace, instead of just assuming that you are the end all be all and perfect leader, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's
Right.
perfect.
Right. And that's a really good point, because sometimes what happens is people they from what I've seen,
Mhm.
people seem to toggle in terms of almost from three different leadership styles. They have the end all be all, right? That
Yeah.
perfectionistic, I know everything about everything. There's actually somebody who comes to mind on that. People don't like spending time with people like that. They
Oh,
adults. Actually, no one does. It's just that kids have less ability to do something about it.
yeah.
But no one likes spending time around someone who tries to talk about how they know everything about everything every time, because it's not true and it's disingenuous.
Yeah.
The second bucket, so there's that one bucket. The second bucket is kind of like the mom bucket, which is what I call that, where it's kind of like they go through this idea of like it's teenagers or raising kids or things like that, and I don't know if that's necessarily the way I would go. I think those are two different skill sets. They might be related, but they're two different skill sets. And then you're talking about the third bucket, which is what you're getting at, this idea of being able to have people understanding their values, understanding what motivates and where they're coming
Mhm.
from. Because the other point that you kind of slipped in there is that different people are motivated for different things at different
Yeah,
times, right? So
right.
let's talk about that. Specifically, this whole concept of values and different people being motivated differently at different times. Like, unpack that a little bit for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we know in the world of psychology is there are seven basic values that lead into motivators for human beings. And there are different, in those different seven different values come from our experiences in childhood and what we were exposed to and how we were raised as children for what was important for the people around us. And so that plays into who we are and what we value in order to get motivated. So those seven different values include they have these really fancy schmancy names,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
really
yeah.
it comes down to the importance of balance in your life, right? How much do people value balance? Um, Meaning that can be work life balance, relationship balance, literally in every sense of the term, balance. There is also what's called individualistic. So, how much does the person value being able to express themselves? So, me, for example, the people who are listening can't see me, but for those of you who don't know, I have purple hair, which means I have a very high individualistic value. I really believe in getting to express myself. So that's really important to me. It's is to have that out there. Some of the other values are things like what's called theoretical. So how much does somebody like learning? You know, how far down the rabbit hole do they go, or do they learn just enough to put it into play and put it into action and implement? Um, there are values. One of them is called political, which really has nothing to do with politics at all, but actually has everything to do with how you show up in a team. Do you show up right in the middle of the team, helping everybody else as a team player? Do you show up not in a team at all? Do you want to do everything yourself? Or
Right,
do you prefer leadership? So depending on where somebody falls on the political value scale, we're gonna be able to see, are they not a team player? Are they a team player? Are they the leader of the team? Are they leading from the middle of the pack, or are they leading from the front?
right,
Because I can tell just by looking at that score on an assessment where somebody lies in that value. So, but by knowing some of these values, and you'll notice I haven't even gotten to the one that everyone talks about in direct sales, but it's actually the lowest one. It's the one that most people, 87%, and this is research, non-scientific research I've done. This is just every direct salesperson who's ever taken this assessment with me. I look at this score and I track it because I want to know where we are. And right now I'm at 87% of people in direct sales and network marketing do not have place a high value on money.
right. That's interesting. That's
That
interesting.
is not their top value. Their
Right,
top value lies in the leadership piece, or the
right,
theoretical piece, or the
right,
balance piece, or the
right,
altruism is extremely high in direct sales and network
right,
marketing. People who
right,
want to help other people. Oftentimes their altruistic value is so high they do it to the detriment of themselves.
right,
Meaning, and the way this shows up, the way that that shows up in direct
right.
sales is they give product away, or they sell it at a deep, deep discount to where they make virtually no money. Because keep in mind, their economic value, what they value
Slow.
in the economy, is low. They'd rather help someone than make money. Right.
Right,
And the way that shows up in leadership is that if you don't understand somebody's values and what they value if you don't know. And frankly, a vast majority of the people who take the assessment with me, they have no idea what they value. They think it's money because they have been conditioned by our society that they should be saying that they value money, that they
Right.
value that. And really and honestly, very few people do. And the ones
You know,
who the ones who
go ahead. I'm
do
sorry.
no, that's okay. The ones who do place a high value on the economic scale, right?
Hmm.
The few that I've had who do are the ones who are doing extremely well because they are truly motivated by money. But they also have a nice balance and are also motivated by helping other people and leading. So they are doing, by outside standards,
Right.
very well in direct sales in terms of the money part.
Right.
The ones who don't value money doesn't mean that they can't. You just can't use that as a motivator for them because money doesn't truly motivate them. The trips might motivate them because they might enjoy experiencing new things. Helping other people might be the number one thing. You get people to help more people and get paid doing it, they're going to be much more likely to be successful and get some work done instead of trying to motivate them with $1,000 cash because they don't care.
That's interesting because I think a lot of times people, we get confused that you made the point about money being, they think that that's the motivator, and they learned that that should be the motivator, when in a lot of ways it's not. It's almost like trying to put on clothes that don't fit, or a different way to put it is clothes you don't really like the color of, but you're told that you I guess have to put this on, and that's not really the name of the game. So let's break that down into, as a leader, and one of the things that we've talked about is you and I doing some work where we are working with direct sales and network marketers from a leadership standpoint. I'm talking about the mindset of success and getting out of your own way. You're talking about, from a skill set standpoint, leveraging your skills as being one of the top teams in your previous network marketing company,
Mhm.
and leveraging that in terms of what to say, what not to say, leadership, and some of the things that we're obviously talking about right here, so that you come together and really move this thing forward. So let's say that someone listening here is like, boy, you know what? This really sounds interesting. Like, I didn't even think about that, because the first time we talked about this, which was not today, obviously, but the first time we talked about this, I was like that. I'm like, you know what? I never even thought about that. The value based approach.
Yeah.
My next, and maybe people are thinking this now, that somebody should be, which the next logical question is, well, then if I know somebody is, so Jenny, you're telling me that people are mostly altruistic based. Fine. I agree
Mhm.
with you. Now, what's the adjustment as it relates to my 6-person, 10-person, 100-person team? Like, what do I need to do in order to be able to, if I think that that's the case? Obviously, we can talk with you guys, and if you want, they can direct message us, and that's fine. We're open to
Right.
that. But like, just in the context of this conversation right now, what is it that would be the adjustment if they heard what you say, they agree with what you say, they're open with what you're saying, and they've identified someone on their team who they think is what you're saying? What's
Yeah.
the adjustment there from an altruistic standpoint? I think that might be the easiest. If you want a different one, that's fine.
Sure.
But I
No,
thought
I'll
altruistic might be the easiest one
Oh
for you.
yeah, all the altruistic, I mean, like I said, it's one of the most common high
Right.
values in direct sales and network marketing is the altruistic piece. They want to help other people. And so as a leader, by focusing on and stating more clearly, let's help more people, because that
Mm.
fits within the recruiting piece. Let's help more people make more money. Let's help people
Okay.
get a side stream of income. Let's help more moms. Let's help more people. Let's support more people. That fits that piece, but it also supports the sales piece, right? Because by helping people with your product, then your team members get paid as long as they sell it at retail instead
Right.
of taking that huge discount, assuming that they're holding product in inventory. But if you're selling from e-commerce, from a website setup, then that's great. You get paid your commission based on what you sell. And of course, the more products people get in their hands and are using, and you're helping your customer base use the products, then they're going to get the benefit, and then you are helping them, and then they're going to want to come back and get more of that if they're going through that. So as a leader, by focusing on and saying let's help more people, you're more likely to get your team motivated, get them in action, because they are more than likely highly valuing helping other people.
Hmm.
So that's really going to help sales and recruiting
Hmm.
increase fairly naturally.
That is interesting because, this would actually get into, I think, a point that you were alluding to earlier, which is erroneously thinking that everyone has done all the trainings and that everyone has processed them and absorbed them in the same manner. So
Oh yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that, maybe, because this gets into that. I believe it will dovetail into the point that you just made. But now the situation is a little bit different. So the first situation was, okay, I've self-identified on my team who I think is in this framework. Excuse me. And you're saying here are the adjustments to make, which the main one
Mhm.
was come to them in terms of helping more people if it's altruistic. Okay, fine. Now the next scenario is, so I've got these people out here. There is some trainings that they've done or not done or whatever, but they should have gone through something. Now I'm maybe doing these, so let's say maybe it's a little bigger team. Maybe I'm even doing some twice a month or monthly meetings with my team, right? Just for
Mhm.
conversation.
Sure.
What is it that we're able to do there to be able to unlock some of these team members, whether it's maybe getting a better feel for their values, that might be the answer,
Mm.
or if it's maybe relating back to the trainings and speaking it to them in a different way, which is more like the true disc piece,
Yeah.
which is the DISC. Um, what's your answer to that in terms of unlocking team potential?
Well, it's it's pretty hard to know what somebody values, because like I said, they typically don't even necessarily know it themselves, because these
Okay.
are subconscious,
Okay.
without being fully assessed. Now, based on the
Okay.
fact that I've been tracking, the altruistic and the economic stuff, I don't necessarily worry about the other ones, because those are the two biggest ones that show up for
Okay.
me
Okay.
in the world of direct sales and network marketing.
There we go.
Um,
Good start.
Most people can probably assume that a majority of people on their team have high altruistic value, and have a low value on economic money,
Okay.
return on investment,
Okay.
because they care more about helping other people. So you can probably safely assume that a majority of your team is like that. Now, some of them
Okay.
are not going to be like that, and so they won't respond to helping other people, but they will respond to getting into leadership. They will respond to learning more. They will respond to these other things. Now, in terms of the training piece, if you want to be more effective as a trainer, if you are a leader who wants to be better at training your team, yes, by focusing on the right value, that's going to help. But in the training piece, speaking in a way so that others actually listen to you is going to be very important. And the way to speak so other people listen to you is by understanding the four primary personality types of DISC,
Right.
because the D's use different verbiage than the I's, use different verbiage than the S's, and use different verbiage than the C's. And
Right.
they speak about things and process things differently based on their
Right.
personality type.
Right. Right.
So the quick and dirty way to separate out those four personality types.
Let me interrupt you just for one
Sure.
second, Jenny,
Yeah,
because it occurred to me that let's unpack the DISC. So real
sure.
quick, The D is for the drivers. Those are more fast-paced individuals.
Yep.
The I are interactive. Those are also people, but they're going, well, they're not also people, but they are people, and that they are engaging and usually extroverted. S's are more the supporters. They are also people,
Yep.
and they are going to support others, kind of like that altruistic point that she was just making. And then the C's are more cautious in approach. They're a little bit more analytical, and they're a little bit more task oriented. Okay, I just wanted to set the stage for
Yep.
people like that because it occurred to me that we didn't do that. Not
They may
everybody
not
might
know
know.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, so go ahead. Go
exactly.
keep going. I apologize.
No, you're that feeds perfectly into what I was talking about. So by knowing DISC and knowing some of those basic things about those, the way you separate out is how quickly do people pick things up. So are they fast paced? If they're fast paced, they're a D or an I.
Right,
Easy peasy. That's the quickest way to separate out people. Fast paced. How do you know if they're fast paced? How quickly do they talk? How quickly do they think? How quickly do they understand concepts? How quickly do they take action?
right.
D's and I's will always jump into action very quickly.
Okay,
They
that's good to
they
know.
will they are fast thinkers. They are okay with making mistakes because they
Right,
realize
right,
that they are willing to clean up later,
right,
right? How they approach things, I's will tend to be more people oriented, like you mentioned. D's are more results oriented.
right,
So, you know, again, that helps you understand the difference between those two. S's and C's, slower pace. They think slowly, they talk slowly compared to
right,
D's and I's,
right,
right? They just
right.
they go through things a little bit more slowly. They process through things a little bit more slowly.
Mhm.
S's, as you mentioned, are very people oriented as well. So they are going to be, how can I help everybody? How can I help you as a leader? How can the
Right,
words coming out of their mouth, the verbiage coming out of an S's mouth is all
right,
about help, support,
right,
those kinds of things because they want to be right in the middle of the team.
right,
High S's are almost never in a leadership position by choice.
right.
They are often in leadership by default because it was the best way to support the team. And so that's how they will get into leadership.
Right,
Oftentimes, they are not usually seeking leadership.
right,
Um, and then the C's are, like you said, extremely analytical. These are the people who you for the listener, right? So I'm sure every one of them has had somebody like this either as a customer or a team member,
right,
but they are asking for all of the data. They want
right,
all the scientific articles about your product. They
right,
want to
right,
know the entire guarantee, what's
right,
all in the fine print.
right.
They are reading everything. They take forever, especially if
Yeah,
you're a D or an I. A
yeah,
C takes forever. It feels like they take forever to make a decision for those of us who are D's and I's, which I am both a high D and a high I. It feels like it takes a C forever to make a decision. But here's the thing, give them their space, give them their time to think, let them make the decision on their own. The best question you can ask a C is, what information do you need to decide?
that's a good one. That's a
And
really good one.
they will tell you exactly what they need in order to decide. And when you provide that information, when you show up consistently, then they go, okay, I'm ready to go. And they will be your most loyal customer, your most loyal team member, because once they've decided, they are in 100%. They do not dip their toe in. They are in or they are out. There is no
Right,
in between
right.
because they already know if they've made the decision, it is the right decision. Because for a
That's exact.
high C, making a wrong decision is equivalent to death.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like touching. It's like hydrochloric acid to them. I think though that you're making some really good points because you've got this idea of you know the people who the DISC, right, and we're talking about leadership.
Hmm.
So if you find that you have somebody on your team that maybe is going a little bit slower than what you think.
Mhm.
Or you find someone on your team who's going a little quicker, but usually it's the slower. It's usually the problem that I hear is not, oh, I have 5 people getting into action too quickly and they're making 28 mistakes. The thing that I hear is I have, right? It's like, oh, they need to slow down. You usually don't
Yeah.
hear that. You usually
No.
hear, I have 20 people on my team and no one's really doing anything. What can I do to kind of pick up the pace a little bit? So I think part of it is my experience, and I've read this somewhere, I just don't remember where. 60% of the population is a C or a, what was it? 60% of the population is task oriented, C or Ds. That's what I read. And so 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 the D's and the C's are task oriented, the I's and the S's are people oriented. If you
Mhm.
disagree with that, that's fine. It was like 55, 60% of the people. That's the number that I read.
It's pretty it's fairly close to that. I mean, the most recent statistic that I was able to find was about 28% of the population are C's and 12% of the population are D's. So that puts it at about 40. More
Hmm.
people are people oriented.
More
Um,
people are people oriented. Okay,
more
that was
people
different than
are
what I
people
thought. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
more people are people oriented because our be, be, my coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Uh, approximately 30% are S's and approximately 30% are I's. So that's
Okay.
60% right there. And then the
Okay.
40% are process oriented. And it, the benefit of that
That's
is
interesting. Okay.
because network marketing is completely a people business.
Right.
Direct sales
Right.
is completely a people business. And
Right.
so in across the board. Now of course that statistic is Americans only.
Okay.
That statistic is uh from 2015.
Okay.
So things could have very easily shifted, but I think
Yeah.
based on what's happened in COVID, we've actually
Yeah.
become much more people oriented
Yeah.
than we ever have before. I know
I,
that
yeah.
I know that for sure when I was taking my disc assessments, because I take it every 6 months, because I disc is not a end all be all
Right.
for everybody. It's how you are showing up at the time that you take the assessment.
That's right.
This is not a you aren't somebody who takes the assessment is not a high S for life. Somebody
Right.
who takes it is not a low C for life necessarily. It depends
Right.
on what's going on in the world.
Right. Right.
But when COVID was happening, I saw everybody's S's jump up because everybody was in let's get around people, let's support people, even if we're doing it through Zoom, even if, so everybody's S's jumped during COVID. And then now things have remained higher. People are people oriented right now because of having been so separated, and isolated for so long. So it, it makes sense that in a people oriented business that we would also attract more people oriented people, because in direct sales the number of high D's is even lower than in the general population.
See, that's interesting. I like that point that it's, in direct sales, people are people oriented people, you know what I mean? And that's getting back to that leadership point, and then maybe
Mhm.
there's even a dovetail recruiting point here, which is on the leadership point. You start putting some of these pieces together. So at the top, you're saying, all right, people are going to be more altruistic, generally speaking, in the network marketing genre. Fine. Now we're also saying that generally speaking, people are going to be more people oriented, body politic. Okay. Then we're saying, the people who really do the best, that's the implication. The people who really do the best in network marketing are the ones who are people oriented, the people
Yeah.
who are going out and engaging that. There's other organizations and other places where you could go where you can get into the politics of it, you can get into the process of it, you can get into the perception of it, you can get into the looking good, you can get into the not doing anything but trying to act like you are. Turns out there's a word for that. It's called corporate.
Yeah.
But when and that's fine. But if you want to do network marketing, that's not how we roll over here. Okay. And that's really interesting because as a leader, and here's comes my question, which is, as a leader, it almost sounds like, if we're just trying to get a first step going here and get the ball rolling, it
Hmm.
almost sounds like that if your overall game plan is a bias towards altruistic first,
Hmm.
showing them maybe a little bit of the leadership piece, if that's what it is, and maybe the learning more, but definitely altruistic first from a value standpoint. Definitely, you're approaching your team and seeing who the people are, and working with them. And then and combining that, like I said, with the value. So I probably should have said it the other way around, but you get the idea, putting those
Yeah.
two both together. Okay. And then from there, being able to say, all right, you know, as a leader, maybe we haven't talked about this, but having a vision of what it is that you would like, but also asking them what it is that they would like. Okay. And when you
Yes.
add those three things together, maybe not in that order, but potentially,
Hmm.
where if you put those three things together, it sounds to me like you're in good shape from a leadership standpoint. And I'll throw one more rider clause into this. And this is a little bit, has the potential to be harsh, but I think it's true.
Hmm.
And not necessarily worry about everyone else who hasn't necessarily moved for whatever reason. That doesn't mean that we're dropping people, but I
Right.
think for one of your points, I believe to one of your points, is this idea that maybe it's not, but the idea is that we can spend so much time trying to resurrect people who
Oh my gosh.
just
Yeah.
may or may not, it just might not be a good fit, might not be a good fit for them, might not be a good fit for you, might not be a good fit with the company, might not be a good fit with the product, might not be a good fit for where they are at this point in their lives,
Right.
just might not be a good fit for a variety of reasons, none of some of which may not have something to do with you.
Oh yeah.
So I guess my question is, those three things that I mentioned, the values, the communication style, as well as what it is that people are doing and how you can come across that, people person, people. Does that sound like a good start? And then combining that with, listen, not everyone's going to make it, but let me try to bring as many people as I can over. And then let me try to really focus on bringing some more new people in who fit this mold. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah, that is a definite way to have more success, which again is really only going to motivate a portion of the leaders.
Right,
Because
right,
those leaders are still probably, again, depending on which personality type they tend to show up in, having more success is going to be slightly more motivating for a high D, whereas everybody else, whatever. Yeah, I'd like more results, sure, but that's because it leads to this other thing. Whereas, high Ds want results for the sake of results. But to speak to what you brought up about, leaders not working so hard to resurrect the dead. I totally that made me think of one of the things that I absolutely adored that one of my mentors said uh, to me as I was trying to resurrect a team that was not doing much of anything. And she said, honey, it is so much easier and so much more fun to make a new baby than it is to resurrect the dead.
it is.
If they choose to come back, great,
Right,
but trying to go back to that same well is not going to serve you, it's not going to serve them, it's not going to
right,
serve the relationship.
right.
um
That's right.
and her and I still use this analogy moving forward in terms of when you're working with people, how do you choose who to work with, right?
Right,
Because
right,
especially
right.
if
It's a
so
good point.
much of the population are people, how do you decide? Well, the
Right,
way you decide is you work with the willing, you work with the ones who show up in front of you. And so the analogy that my mentor used was, as a leader, I'm a mirror. If you show up in front of me,
right,
I will work with you. I reflect back to you. I will work with you. But if you step back, if you step away, if you're out of view of the mirror, that's your choice. But it's not that I don't want to work with you, but if you step back, I'm not chasing you down.
That's
I have a
exactly right.
team.
That's
I have a
exactly right.
family. I have
That's
my own
right.
business to run. I have all these, I have all these other things. So, but if you
Right.
step in front of me and say you want to work, I will work with you.
That's right.
And I absolutely adored that analogy, it was a huge help for me as a
Right.
leader to think
Right.
of myself that way as
Right.
well. But it
Right.
also put me in a position to work well with my leader, knowing that that's how she operated. And so
Right.
it was very helpful to have an analogy like that, and it allowed me as a people person, because I am a high I. I do also have a higher than average S. And so I am very, very people oriented, and it
Right.
was really hard for me to let people go who weren't
Right.
being as successful as I was. And it took a lot of me letting go and saying, that's their choice, that's their decision. I showed up in my best self to be the best possible leader for them. And if they chose not to take those actions, if they chose not to do the things, that does not reflect on me, that reflects on them. And
Right.
that I think was the biggest growth I had as a leader, was being able to let that go and recognize that it was not a reflection of me, that I'm
Right.
not their mom.
Right.
you know,
Right.
our kids are a reflection of the parents, right? I'm not their mom,
Right. That's
and so
exactly right. That's
that
exactly
was
right.
a huge shift for me as a leader to be able to let
Right.
that go. And then my team really started moving forward
Right.
when when I recognized that and I could let that go and really focus
Right.
on working with the willing.
Right. That's exactly right. It's easier. It's more fun.
Mhm.
It's more effective. You get what you want. They get what they want. Like that's some really good stuff. That's some really good stuff. Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking at the time. We got to
Yep.
bounce.
Yeah, we do.
This was a really, really good, call and episode. And I appreciate you spending some time with us. Obviously, like I'd mentioned before, you and I are doing some work together. We got a joint little service that we're doing. And if any of our listeners who happen to fall into this category themselves, or maybe they know of their upline who falls into this category, we are looking to talk with and just kind of get a feel for people who, network marketers, who have a team of triple digits, so 100, 90 to 100 folks or more. We're looking to be able to talk with them in terms of showing them what they can do to be able to unlock their own success, either from mindset of success, from a leadership, from a skill set. Jenny and I have put together our respective expertise into what we think is a solid framework for
Mhm.
being successful in the network marketing world. And if you know of somebody, or if you think might be a good conversation, we're more than happy to talk with people. We're doing some different things. We're putting some different finishing touches on some of the things. We're always working and building on it. So we'd love to be able to hear just what's going on in the field, right? You guys are
Yep.
out in the field. We're not. We work with people in the field, but you're out in the field every day. Okay, so we'd love to be able to hear that. So if you fall into the category of a network marketing professional that has a team of say 100 or more, maybe you're out there networking and doing some things in some type of paid network capacity, whether it's a chamber, BNI, or whatever the case may be, and you want to talk a little bit about how you can get more out of yourself and your team, we'd love to talk with you. If you have a upline who you feel might be in that same kind of situation, we'd love an introduction or a message or something like that. But regardless, Jenny, this was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I think I was taking notes. Hopefully, people were taking notes as well, on what they can do to not only be able to communicate in a way that others will listen, but also to do so in a way that's that's leadership centric. The point that I made at the top, with a skill set that they may or may not have been taught coming into the network marketing field. So I appreciate all your expertise with that.
No, I thank you very much, Brian, for this opportunity. I love talking about this particular topic. It's so important for people to know.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, that's Jenny Bellinger. My name is Brian Hilliard. We're saying so long, take care, and thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate it.